Man, that was annoying. Hey, I'm Doug, this is Eric. We're D&E in the garage, and as you can tell, my beloved WJ is making an awful, awful noise. It's squealing so bad, the belt, that I haven't even been driving it. I've replaced a few pulleys. I think I've narrowed it down to the idler pulley. This is a 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 4-liter motor. So what we're going to do today is go through the process of replacing that idler. Sadly, it is not always a simple process on these Jeeps. There are two issues you can have. Let's get into it and look at the process. All right, the first thing you got to do, find the tensioner on these Jeeps. Let's come right down here underneath the alternator. You see this guy right here? It's hard to see. I know, we'll get a better shot later. That's where it is. But before you can get to that, you got to remove this belt.
Okay guys, it's pretty simple to get the tension off the belt, to get the belt off. You have to get a 1/2 inch either breaker bar or ratchet, put it into the square hole, like so, and then pull up or down depending where it's mounted on the car. And at that point, you'll see it relieve tension, you slide the belt off, and you have it off.
There you go. Tension's officially off your belt. Alrighty, next you're going to need a T40 Torex bit. And that's going to get the sole bolt off of the tensioner. I'm telling you all this outside the vehicle because there's not a lot of room for you to see it inside. So I'm going to explain what I'm doing outside, then we'll go inside and I'll just do it. And hopefully that gets the point across. Alright, this seems to be the best angle I can get on it for you guys. You can see right down here is where this Torex bolt is. And this is where the first of two potential problems is. Chances are this bolt has been into this aluminum bracket for years and hundreds of thousands of miles. A lot of times these are kind of seized in there, and the first thing you do is you round this Torx head right out. When that happens, you need to remove your radiator, get in there to either drill the bolt out or weld something on it. Let's say a quick prayer and give this one a shot. It doesn't help that you don't have a ton of room and sometimes your flashlight falls. Oh boy. Okay. That is one giant obstacle down. So there you go. That's the offending screw, or potentially offending screw. You can see that I didn't get mine out totally clean. It doesn't look super great. I am going to reuse this because that's what I have right now, but you could very easily, it's not an uncommon thread, go down to, actually that's not true, it's got a weird chamfer up here. So, yeah, somewhere, I guarantee Quadratech, somebody sells a replacement for this. So maybe plan ahead better than I did and get yourself a replacement to begin with. You can see mine's a little chowdered up. We're going to reuse her though. Well, totally after the fact I realized this is a perfect view of it, so sorry for those last shots, but once that's out, you hit the next obstacle. This the stock tensioners have an aluminum back, and the bracket that they are attached to has an aluminum back. And a lot of times when you go to get them off, parts of one are seized to the other, and that's usually what your next problem is going to be. What I like to do is take the same 1/2 inch tool that I use to get the belt off and just wiggle this thing and hope that it comes free. You want to try to not put too much pressure on it or you're more likely to break it. Now, I'm going to go wrestle with this thing off camera because frankly you guys are in the way right now. Alrighty friends, this is exactly what I was worried about. You can see that this is the old tensioner. Here is the one nub, the other one broke off, and it remains inside that bracket right down here. So what we're gonna have to do is remove this alternator, remove that bracket, and try to get that little piece out so that the new tensioner, both the nubs can seat in there. One of these two things happens almost every time you replace one of these tensioners. Either the bolt's stuck in there and you round it out, or the aluminum is seized to the other aluminum, corroded right on, and it breaks. I'm gonna go ahead and take this alternator out. It's not too complicated. It's just a couple bolts here, up here. Pop that off. Then this tensioner and this alternator are on a bracket that goes into the block. We'll pop that off. It's all simple stuff. You can figure that out. And then we'll come back in once we have that off and figure out a way to fix this mess. Alrighty, friends and keepers of the faith, I was able to get off the bracket. As you can see, that nub, it looks like it's friggin' welded on there. It's just so corroded. It's a piece of this bracket now. What I'm going to end up doing is grinding that flat. We'll drill a hole out. That'll be no problem. Bigger problems over here. In the process, I broke an alternator bolt. So, nothing's ever easy, especially when you're dealing with these cast aluminum parts. They corrode when you got steel and aluminum next to each other. It's not pretty. So I'm gonna have to add working this broken stud out and find a new bolt to our task. But let's go over the grinder, get this ground flat, so that we can at least achieve our first goal, even if we can't get the Jeep running tonight. Alrighty, now you can see where the outline of the old one was. I think all we're going to do is start drilling out the middle of that. Eventually, it will heat this area up enough that it will pop that right out. So I'm going to start with probably an 1/8 inch hole and then work our way back up. So I don't know if you can tell here what you're looking at. This is obviously the body of the bracket. This milky yellowish area is all the corrosion, and then this little ring is what's left of that aluminum nub. I've got it drilled out to the point where that's less than 1/8 of an inch, or about 1/8 of an inch, excuse me, 1/16 of an inch, and it still hasn't broken free. I think I'm gonna have to actually drill out this bit of corrosion. It's just a good illustration of how insidious corrosion is when you're dealing with aluminum parts. So I'm going to continue drilling this thing out, and thankfully this is not a precision application. This screw hole holds the tensioner in, and then these two holes are just to sort of stabilize it. But if this was a more precise application, I'd probably have to go get a new bracket. Hopefully I can save it, and we'll get that drilled out right now. Alright, so we finally got it to the point where we're going to be able to get the new tensioner in. Thankfully, aluminum is not difficult to drill out, so you're not beating up your drills. It's not a hard process. Alrighty, friends. Now for the unexpected part of our of today's journey. This is the alternator bolt that something happened and it's all seized up in there. We tried to get it out. We tried to work it back and forth, PB blaster, but we ended up breaking it. I didn't want to use heat in the vehicle because my coil's right there, my rad lines are right there. But now that we are outside the vehicle, we're going to do the age-old tradition of adding heat to a seized stud and hoping it breaks free. What a dick. Well, that's just silly. Much better. This is not really the right kind of torch for this, but it's what I have right now. It's what I'm going to use. Alright, let's see if maybe we broke it loose enough that it'll come on out. I'm inclined to say, not yet.
Nope.
Oh, yeah. I drill flat spot, or grind flat spots on them. Can you pull that? Or is it not at that angle yet? You gotta be kidding me.
I don't know how to help you.
Stupid thing keeps tricking me. I'm getting angry. It's supposed to be a 5-minute video. What the heck is going on? Alright, we're gonna try the same thing we did before. Essentially, we're gonna drill this out. Now, unfortunately, this bolt is steel, not aluminum. It's going to be far less pretty than the last one was. But such is life, friends. People will argue this point saying that lubrication just makes it take longer, but in my experience, if you don't lubricate bits, they wear out in seconds, not even minutes. You fine folks at home can't realize we're at your proverbial wit's end here. We brought up the plumbing clamps. Eric, give that a good tug. For plumbing wrenches, and still no love. Alrighty friends, new point of attack. Cutoff wheel. We're going to chop that off. We're going to drill straight through it, and we're just going to keep drill until there's no more bolt left. At that point, it'll be obvious that either the bolt will start spinning out and we'll be in good shape, or it'll be apparent that the threads are so galled that we can't save the bracket. That will be sad, but you know what that means. I can justify another trip to the junkyard. Always a positive. There we go! I don't understand. I don't understand. I've never seen a bolt hold on that much.
Me either. This is the worst I've ever seen.
I do have another video. It's got a little bit of info on getting stuck bolts out if you are so inclined. I'll put a card up in the corner. You can check that out. Get some of my favorite ways, though we've tried most of them right now and none of them have worked. So it's not a guarantee, but at least it gives you something. All right, friends. Pretty obvious this isn't going to work out how I want it to. We're going to continue on anyway. Alright friends, we did not win tonight. I was not able to free the broken stud from this bracket. Now there are things we could do. If I needed to drive this Jeep tomorrow, you better believe I'd find some way to make this work, but I do not. So, what we're going to do, let's call this bracket shot. I don't know if you can see. It's just not going to happen. It's all marred up on this end from easy outs and drilling. We're going to go to the junkyard, our favorite thing, and we're just going to grab a whole new bracket, new bolt. Alrighty friends, when last we left our heroes, they had completely screwed up this bracket. Since then, been out to the junkyard, pulled a brand new one, including a spare idler. I'm still going to use that brand new one I have, but I'll keep this one as a spare. The interesting thing about this idler is that it illustrates the other thing that can go wrong. Clearly, this guy, you can see they rounded out the T40 Torx hole there and had to cut the bolt. He cut it into an 18mm. I got an 18mm wrench on there and was able to get it out. So that's one of your options if you do strip out this hole. You can, I guess he probably got a cutoff wheel and just kept grinding it down until you get a wrench on it. Having this Torx there it's a terrible decision. Anyway, let's get back in the Jeep, get this thing put back together. This was supposed to be a half-hour project. It's now taken 2 days. I'm putting the alternator bolts back into the new bracket, but I'm definitely anti-seizing these all the way so that next time I have to take that alternator out, I don't run into the same problem. All right. Getting these lined up is always a treat. Let's see. Eric, let me borrow this little battery-powered ratchet. I was skeptical because I don't really see any problem with doing things the old way, but this thing's pretty handy, assuming you can get it into position. Let's go. You got to be wary of impact tools. It's real easy to get yourself in trouble and break something that didn't need to get broken. Like I said, anti-seize on both of these alternator bolts to make sure we don't have this problem again later. Alrighty, now that we've fixed all the crap we broke in the process of this repair, we can get back to what we were originally doing. We're going to get this new tensioner put on, and you better believe I'm putting anti-seize all over the back of this thing, so that if I ever have to do this again, this all started because the old one broke off. You know, if that hadn't broke off, I wouldn't have had to remove the alternator right now. Granted, that's a problem I would have had to deal with at some point, but I still would have rather it just didn't break off. So we're going to paint that up with anti-seize, get that back on the vehicle. Alright, we're going to sneak this guy down in, get it into position, make sure we also have anti-seize on the screw, the bolt. That will help prevent it from rounding out. Like I said at the beginning, this is a heck of a lot easier to do when you have your fan shroud out. So if at any point your radiator's out and you have a WJ with over 100,000 miles, just replace this thing, man. Make it easier on yourself. Oh, I know that I'm completely blocking y'all from the shot. I do apologize, but you've seen me screwing enough bolts that I think you get the general idea. We're gonna get that tightened down. I don't know what the torque specs are, don't ask me. Give it a grunt and a half. You wanna make, I mean, it's a small bolt, you wanna make sure you're not gonna strip it, but if there are torque specs, I don't know anybody who really uses them for this particular application. Alrighty, once you got everything tightened up, you're sure all the bolts are on, use your 1/2-inch breaker bar, put your belt back on, and this job is finished. Alrighty friends, that's all it is. Super simple, right? I'd love to tell you that after all that, it fixed the squealing belt, but it did not. So the only thing left is my harmonic balancer. So video to come on that, apparently. But I'm glad to have the tensioner done, because that was a little loose. It was looser than it needed to be. So if you have any questions on the process that I used to do this, by all means, leave me a comment down in the squawk boxes. I guarantee if you're a WJ guy, you've had one of these problems where the tooth breaks off in the back, or more likely you rounded out that T40. So it's good to know a couple different ways to fix it. And as always, the U-Pull yard saves us again. Hope you liked the video. If you found it amusing, entertaining, maybe even a little educational, by all means, like the video, subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.